Did you know that there's a connection between Zoloft and heart disease? In fact, between an entire class of antidepressants called tricyclic antidepressants, and even in the more commonly prescribed SSRIs, which are all of the rest of them. The specific issue is that one of the issues is that it elongates the QT curve. So when your heart is hooked up to the EKG and they look at the PQRST, there's this little phase between the Q and the T, and if that gets longer, then it can increase likelihood of loss of consciousness, and especially in young people, this is tied to sudden death. That's quite a significant side effect, in my opinion. So I wanted to talk for just a moment about other ways to treat depression. In Chinese medicine, we take the approach of what is the imbalance of the body. So, for example, the Chinese word for heart, which is Xin, is the same word as the word for mind, Xin, Xin. And the reason that this is so important is because it's observed that the functioning of the heart and the quality of the blood running through the heart is exactly what affects the quality of the thoughts. So for example, take a day that you are tired, strung out, you haven't slept well, you haven't eaten well, and you're dehydrated, and think about how organized your thoughts are on that particular day. I have days like that regularly, in all honesty, due to the triathlon training. It's really easy for me to get into that phase, and I can tell you, I'm a bloomin' idiot. I cannot think straight. I don't make good decisions. I might end up deciding to have ice cream for dinner instead of my usually good food. All of us have that same situation. Every single one of us, if you put enough stress under us, then we're like a kernel of corn that pops. Just apply enough heat and we will all eventually pop. So we're all going to get to a time and a place where we feel out of balance. And that out of balance might show up as depression or anxiety, frustration, irritability, some version of not being the kind human being that your dog thinks you are, and instead being the jerk that you fear that everybody else thinks you are. It's not actually the case. It's just that things are a little bit out of balance. I want to talk to you about one of my favorite Chinese medicine formulas for this specifically. And it treats a syndrome called liver qi stagnation, especially liver overacting on spleen. So, when you got the grumps and then you want that ice cream or whatever your favorite comfort food is, but usually it's sweet. The reason for this is because the overburdened liver has a conversation with the spleen, and it's kind of like hitting on the spleen, and the spleen wants some comfort food, and the comfort food for the spleen is sweet. The flavor of the spleen is sweet. So whether that's carbohydrates, in America we don't think of bread as sweet, but it is classically in the Chinese medicine flavor palette, it is sweet. Or if we're just thinking about the classic, I need some good old chocolate, liver overacting on spleen is one of the famous differentiations, but there are several for anxiety and depression, and a skilled Chinese medicine doctor and herbalist can help you with that and help you avoid long QT syndrome and sudden death as a side effect, or even just the cardiac arrhythmias that go along with that. In addition to that, it also affects the thyroid, and so many people who have depression also have thyroid issues, and yet SSRIs affect the thyroid over time. So we are sure happy to help. Anything that we can do to help you get back on track, we'd love to. I'm Dr. Cynthia Clark with Longevity Wellness, and that's good medicine.